As you know, 2 weeks from today, we will have our annual meeting and we will hold the election. The chapter is, in non-profit terms, the board of directors. In more cathedral terms, our group of spiritual leaders who advise and help the clergy and take care of the material parts of the church's life. And this year we will be electing 4 people to 3-year terms, and 1 person to an unfinished term to succeed dear Jill Sanford, who we lost in October. So we have 7 great candidates, as you see here before you, and they're going to have opportunities to introduce themselves and to answer a couple of questions. Sue Kelly headed the nominating committee. Thank you very much, Sue, our People's Warden. She did a lot of gentle arm twisting, I know, and we're grateful to everyone who said yes. But Sue is going to start us off, and then when she has to leave for choir practice, Donna Perdue will take over facilitating the conversation, and hopefully there'll be a few minutes at the end for 1 or 2 questions from the floor. So, Sue, let you... Thank you all for being... Sorry, one more thing. I do have 20 copies, hard copies, of the materials that are on the website about the candidates. But if you can possibly look at them online, great, because I just made 20 because it's a lot of paper.
And there's also a poster back in the back that you can look at people's faces and sort them out if you need to. I'm very grateful for everybody that's here this morning, and also that has agreed to run for the chapter. They're all familiar faces, and everybody may not know them. So I'm going to start out by asking them to introduce themselves. Yes. The first question is, state your name, how long you've been a member of St. Paul's, why you came, why you stayed.
Well, good morning, everyone. My name is Rob Ewell. I've been with St. Paul for 14 years. Can you hear me? Okay. Okay, I'll try it. That does work. I've been with St. Paul's for 14 years, and the reason why I continue to come and plan to stay for quite a while is because of all of you. It's a wonderful congregation, a wonderful place to be, and also the commission and the mission, frankly, of social justice is alive and well here in this particular parish.
Good morning. My name is Frank Bork, and my wife and I, Stella, or my wife and I, my wife Stella and I, I'm not nervous, have been coming here for 25 years. The reason why we came here is because of the music program. And I've been a member of the choir for all that a number of time. And for me, music is a very essential part of my worship experience. And I am inspired and blessed to be able to share my spiritual joy of music with all of our congregation, which is why I keep coming back every Sunday. Stick around, we have a nice performance for you at 10:30.
Hi, I'm Joanna Earhart. I figured out I am 4th generation St. Paulian. My great-grandmother, who I'm named after, came here in the 1890s, and I just, through ancestry stuff, found out that her mother came also, so I need to look in the records and see if they're in the books. I have been singing here for 70 years. I took time out. I lived in Oregon for, oh, sorry, I beat you. Yeah. And it's when I was a child, it was the music, and that my mother driving me here, and that I thank her for that. And and I love you guys. You are my family, and I'll say a little bit more about that in it. But next question.
I'm Demetrius Gregg. I joined St. Paul's Cathedral in November of 2021. I originally moved here from Baltimore to be the Director of Congregational Development at St. Bartholomew's in Poway. And I figured for my own spiritual formation, I should probably worship somewhere that was not work. And that brought me to the cathedral. And I've stayed here because I've been very fortunate to build some really great relationships in this community.
Hi, I'm Stacy Clayman. I wrote out my answers because, believe it or not, I do get anxious in these situations. When I returned to San Diego at the beginning of March 2020, after being away in graduate school for 7 years, one of my priorities was to find a faith community. On Easter Sunday during lockdown, I found St. Paul's online. Like most people, I was drawn to wherever you are in your journey of faith, you are welcome here. And I watched the virtual Easter service and came back week after week. I stayed for many reasons. First impressions matter. What comes to mind about those first few weeks I attended online include Dean Penny's special welcome message to those who found St. Paul's online. The sermons resonated with me. I was captivated by the beauty of evensong. The Zoom coffee hours moved me because I saw how people seemed to be genuinely concerned about one another. It was not long after that I signed up for Waking Up White, the book discussion, and then Sacred Ground in Action, and then weekday morning prayer. Soon I was included in a circle of love. When the cathedral opened up as COVID subsided, I met many people in person for the first time, and I felt very welcome and embraced by this community and wanted to be as much a part of it as I could. After nearly 5 years, I think it's fair to say that I'm embedded in this community. And it has deepened my faith. I've made many wonderful friends, served on chapter and several ministries, and feel this is my faith home.
Is this on? Okay. I'm going to read you something. I'm Robert Heilman, and I've been here 40 years. I joined on this church on Pentecost 40 years ago. I was reminded of that recently. But this is sort of an example of how God does provide. You know, I thought, what am I going to say to these people who are my family, my friends, and have been, some of you, my friends, all these years. And then online came this from somebody I don't have any idea who he is, Kendall Lockerman. Anybody know him? I am an Episcopalian because a friend invited me to church, specifically to Evensong. I kind of modified this to suit me, by the way, now over 40 years ago. You'll love the music, he said, and of course he was right. I am an Episcopalian because of 6 centuries of that music that is so beautiful that it still brings tears to my eyes. I am an Episcopalian because we are a body of believers who can say that we are truly sorry and we humbly repent. I'm an Episcopalian because we have women behind the altar and men on the altar guild. I'm an Episcopalian because we make everyone welcome to the table of the feast that fills my heart. I am an Episcopalian because this is where I found my life, and because this is where God blessed me just the way that I needed to be blessed, and just in exactly when, too. I'm running for chapter because I believe in the ministry of this church, this cathedral, that as Christ's hands, we have an opportunity and an obligation to extend God's love to our neighbors, specifically our LGBT neighbors, who see us in the annual Gay Pride Parade, but also see us as a pathway to God's grace at a time of their need, particularly when they want to bury someone or marry someone. I get asked a lot about that because I'm a habitual loft attendee up here on Fifth Avenue. That's my Cheers bar. And they all know I come here. They all know that I'm an Episcopalian, and so they're was recently that happened when one of our people died, and they asked me, how do we do this? I sent them to Brooks. I hope they went to him. But I think that we owe them a pathway to God's grace in time of their need. I know this because I get asked about it, as I just said. I think and firmly believe that I can help in this important area of church life, as well as in the day-to-day needs of the church itself. I posted this too, and I believe this entirely. Don't just attend church. Love the church. Serve the church. Give through the church. Invite people to church. Worship Jesus with the church. Encourage the church. Participate in the church. Pray for the church. And be the church.
Now, in essence of time, or respect of time, my name is Roland Tactain. I'm very pleased to be. I started attending St. Paul's in 2011 when I was dating a young gentleman who introduced me to the church. And that young man has since become my husband. And we've been coming to the church ever since then. But one of the things that kept us coming back for myself was the music. Music was always a draw for me in a church environment. But we came to church one Sunday, and Justin dropped me off early because he had to go park the car. And I took a seat, and he comes in, and he's looking for me. And one of the ushers says to him, "Oh, can I help you find someone?" He says, "Well, I'm here to find my husband." And she says to him, "Well, this is a great place to find him." We knew this is where our home was going to go.
That's a hard story to talk. I think we'll start at this end again. And what areas of parish life do you feel most energized about and are interested in leading?
Well, I gave a hint a little bit earlier. All the ministries that point towards social justice actually have a deep and compassionate interest in, and certainly would like to participate there as well. But frankly, the general opportunity to listen, learn, and maybe contribute to the overall mission of what's being done in chapter and how the business of the institution is managed. I have 32 years in higher education, primarily as in some type of managerial role, and I played a number of roles basically on academic leadership teams. So there are components related to chapter work that I think I have some healthy experience in that I could contribute in some manner. Most importantly, areas of strategic planning and general organization that we already have a fine organization, but we have, sometimes we have some other refinement to do, and I may be able to play a supportive role there.
So I have two passions. One obviously is music, because that's kind of what I do. But I've always been passionate about it, but my call to it, I've recently been called to evangelism, and that occurred when I participated in the Ashes to Go and evangelism class last year. There are just so many wonderful things that St. Paul's has to offer, and we are selfish if we just keep it to ourselves. Jesus called us to do otherwise. Mark 6:15, and he said to them, "Go into all the world and proclaim the good news to all creation." That's what I want to be a part of. Wouldn't it be great if we could combine the two? I'm going to give that some thought.
Thank you. Okay, I have an idea. This is my idea. I know that we're trying to get, young families and all that, in our church and in the playground. But I know that there's a lot of people like me that are seniors. and I have no family in San Diego, like zero. I have one brother, and he lives in Colorado. I have, awesome friends that are like on my, in my will and all that stuff. But I would like to know the other people, the elderly, that have nobody. And Agnes told me that quite a few years ago, somebody, tried to start up something like that. But I'm thinking, maybe like during COVID, when we had the people that would call, I'm thinking maybe have, be able to take people to doctor's appointments, because when you have nobody to drive you, and when I go up to San Francisco to visit my dear friend Penelope Smith, she goes to Grace Cathedral, and they have a group called Seniors of Grace. And I've gone to a couple of their activities there, and there's a lot of people. So I right now don't know who I could incorporate in this, but I would like to have something special for people that are on the other side of working.
So currently I serve on the stewardship committee here at the cathedral, and that is work that I'm really excited about. Mainly in our congregational life together in general. How can we grow resources for this parish to support ministry? How can we meaningfully engage newcomers, people my age and Joanna's age, into the life of St. Paul's? Back in Baltimore, we did a lot of this work when I served on the vestry, and I think that experience will lend itself positively to the cathedral if I'm elected to chapter.
I'm most energized and am already involved in pastoral care, worship, and congregational life. Currently, I'm on the Pastoral Care Committee. I'm a Stephen minister, a Eucharistic visitor, and part of the card ministry. Last year, I sent out over 160 cards and poems to parishioners who are either homebound or can't regularly come to Sunday worship services. I'm a regular member of morning prayer. Many of you know that I serve as an acolyte, and this past year I've dipped my toe into the preaching waters. I will soon receive my lay licensed preaching certificate. I'd like to be more engaged in the area of congregational growth. However, I'm also open to being a leader in areas of parish life where a chapter could best use my skills and talents.
Well, I think I announced earlier one of my interests, of course, is always music here. Beyond that, though, they're keenly interested in kind of an evangelism in the community at large here. I don't know how successful that's going to be. None of us does. But I really would like to see more. I know gay people are very welcome, and quite a few of them are sitting in this audience right now. But they weren't always. And I was on chapter before, somewhere around the turn of the century, before I went to Italy to live for 7 or 8 years. And when John Chain was here, and things were moving along nicely then. And then only I got there just in time for him to write me and say he got picked to be the dean of the cathedral, the national cathedral. So boom, everything changed. And I was a little afraid of that because things had been a little bit bumpy for LGBT people here. And I would like to make sure that road isn't bumpy again. That people are always welcome here, regardless of who they live with, Mary, love. That's what I would like to do. See the chapter do is to make sure that it is a good place for them to be.
Well, I will say again that music continues to be something that I enjoy. I can't say that it's a passion because I can neither sing nor play a musical instrument, so I'll leave that to those who can. But last year, 2023, I retired after nearly 40 years with the Taco Bell franchise here in San Diego County. And I currently use some of those skills to serve on the audit committee and the endowment committee here at the cathedral. My passion for this next chapter, if I'm elected, is to focus on the experience that our guests have. Because I had such a good experience, I would like to have that, give that opportunity to others by introductions and so on and so forth. So that's where my passion rolls into hospitality of some sort. And then, of course, learning all the other things that the chapter will do. I'm hoping my experiences as well will help that along the way.
Honestly, as a member of the choir myself, I did not pick these guys just because they were interested in the music program. What are you, I guess the next question is, what are you most excited about when you think of St. Paul's in 2025 and beyond?
Well, that's a tough question in a way. Actually, I get excitement might be the word, but actually I'm encouraged by the fact that as we go through different things as a society, things that we all are reflecting upon, that I also know that some of the answers are here or are being discussed here at St. Paul's. So I think just really the overall body and this energy of trying to address all the challenges we have in this world. I'm energized by that as well, and it's also know that I'm not the only one thinking about these things that way. Beyond that, the fact that St. Paul seems to always remain very consistent in its message, walks the talk, and I would love to be part of walking along with it as long as I can.
So the short answer for me is community building. I've given a lot of thought to what role the church should be fulfilling in these troubling times. And while we actively address a lot of injustices, social justice, gun violence, climate change, to name a few, I think that the church is best suited to fulfill the role of community building, which we need now more than ever. Our community dinners, showers of blessings, contemporary services, sound baths, greeter ministry, the music concert series are some examples. And I look forward to actively participating in and expanding these offerings in a non-threatening, non-judgmental, and inclusive way.
Thank you. I forgot to say the most important thing about my idea, so I have to go back the question. I would like to have a place here that these people I'm talking about can have like a copy of their important papers, a house key, for the just in case, a list of family members that are, outside, because there probably are other people like me that don't have, blood family here in San Diego. And so the reason I'm running for chapter is because I just kept getting the thought, you need to run. And then I've been having this idea for a while to really be able to help people.
I think Meg's sermon this morning gives some good insight into that, where she says sometimes the answer is right in front of you. I would be very interested in seeing the results of the strategic plan. I think some of the results that have been shared thus far, I think there are a lot of opportunities that lie ahead for St. Paul's. How can we grow mission and ministry? How can we expand our endowment? How can we engage younger people and young families into the life of this congregation? Those are all things that we did in Baltimore, and those are things that I would really look forward to helping implement here at St. Paul's.
I'm most excited about living into the new strategic plan. I was part of the strategic planning committee led by Blair Schammel and Dean Penny and many others. I'm excited for Blair to present the plan at the annual meeting next Sunday. St. Paul's is a very healthy, thriving parish, but we also know there are areas where we could make improvements. I'm particularly motivated by ways in which we can further nurture our community life inside and outside the church by growing our congregation and integrating newcomers into the heart of our community, and by drawing people deeper into the ways we worship.
Well, I agree with Frank a great deal on this particular topic, because I think this year is going to present us with a number of challenges that we hadn't had before, if you know what I mean. Given what's moving into Washington, D.C. And I think that's going to impinge on what we do here as well. And we're going to have to stay the course here and make sure that we are tuned into our Christian virtues and what we believe to be Christ's will for us. And so I think that's what I'm that's exciting to me. I think that's what we are called to do.
Well, what I'm excited about becoming part of this chapter is, in my career, there's been a lot of encouragement from those that are around me that seem to see more in my abilities than I see in myself. So I'm looking forward to being part of the group that will continue to build on the foundation that St. Paul's has already established, to see what we continue to do, and to see what we can do to ensure that there are funds and resources to keep the cathedral thriving for years to come.
And then the last written question I have for you before we throw it open to questions from the audience. Put your thinking caps on, folks. Briefly share a personal experience of St. Paul's that exemplifies what this community means to you.
Perhaps one of there's so many, but I'll just say perhaps the most moving part for me is when we do something like as we have done with Sacred Ground. We've had a chance to have an exchange, parties participated, and I was very thankful for how the words they had, the things they had to say. But what I did not anticipate was that it had a little bit of a lingering legacy, that we realized, yeah, we need to do this again. And I continue to have conversations with parties about some of the issues that we covered. Spontaneous conversations in which it actually realized it's very clear that our energies and our efforts, where we put our time and energies into, actually really do matter, and that we actually are moving on a proper path. So I will say primarily just engagements that were not rehearsed, just simply commentary where parties actually are sharing with you what impact these type of ministries have had on them, and also I can share with them the same that it's had on them.
I briefly mentioned that last year I participated in Ashes to Go for the first time. And my role was that of scribe. I wrote down the prayer requests for the people, that every person that we encounter. Each request is deeply personal, and we treat these as sacred moments by transcribing each of these requests, and we apply the same dignity and respect as we do for the prayer requests that come from our congregation by including them in our daily office intercessions. I officiated most of the evening prayer services, and as luck would have it, I was praying for some of those who I actually encountered. I could see their faces. I remembered their eyes. I heard their voices as if they were beside me. This was not luck. This was a miracle. This was the Holy Spirit at work, and it embodies everything that I think the church should be doing, and it would not have happened without St. Paul's.
Thank you. Well, when you said that, the question, Sue, one thing jumped in my mind. I was standing outside in front of the church with Connie Dadman, because across the street, I don't know what it was back then, but where Barrio Star is, the God hates fags people were across the street. The police would not let them over in front of our church, but they were protesting us. Remember, Connie? And we just both said that we had never, ever been more proud of St. Paul's. I mean, just talking about it gives me goosebumps. That's it.
I had that experience recently, actually. I invited a friend who is trans to church here at St. Paul's on Christmas Day. And she has felt neglected by faith communities for many years. And I was nervous, to be quite honest, about what that experience would be like for her. And she came to St. Paul's, very festive. And this community was very openly loving and welcoming. And that for me was a community that I'm very proud to be a part of.
Okay, so as I mentioned earlier, I came back here in early 2020, and after being away in grad school for 7 years, and everything was shut down due to COVID. I unexpectedly found myself alone. I had no family here. An important group of friends that I had here before and during grad school no longer welcomed me back into the fold. And I pretty much knew nobody here, and COVID exacerbated my feelings of social isolation. My friends and my family were on the East Coast, but as I joined, I became part of Circles of Love, and Jill Sanford was my contact. Receiving a call each Saturday from Jill became a lifeline for me in San Diego. Jill didn't know me, but she had a way of making me feel special, cared for, and valued. The calls were very brief, but they carried me from week to week. When I finally had a chance to meet Jill and Sandy in person, they welcomed me with open arms and not only invited me into congregational life, but they also invited me into their own dear circle of friends outside the cathedral. Jill exemplified what it means to live in community, and I will be forever grateful to her. Like many of you, I carry Jill in my heart and want to be like her and welcome others into this community the way she welcomed me.
The experience I'd like to tell you about goes back many years into the 1980s. We used to have a chapter of integrity here, which is gay Episcopalians. I think it still lives in the South somewhere, but here we no longer have it. But back then, we wanted to have the national convention here. Well, that was problematic because the bishop's, this didn't exist, this room, but the bishop's office did. He was still right there. And the dean was Jim Carroll. And so I went to see the bishop, who was not terribly excited about having a national group of gay men and women, mostly men, arriving here, celebrating their gayness. And it was pretty discouraging. So I went to see Jim, and he said, "We're going to do it anyway." And I said, I thought, this is an act of bravery that I didn't really expect from the clergy. And I thought to myself, if he can be this brave, so can I. And that was the best experience, because away we went with it. And Integrity, the chapter here, organized it. We had a great time, despite the bishop. And I think that cemented my experience here, to know that here was a place where justice finally does run things instead of bigotry and prejudice. So that's my experience.
Well, living in North County, my husband and I, well, my husband is Justin Lewis, he does have a name. Justin and I come up from Escondido, and just the fact that the weekly services are so welcoming and so engaging, and give folks something to take back home for the week to ponder and hopefully to implement in their lives. So I feel good in inviting folks to come and join us just on any given Sunday. But there are two other events that I like, and one is the Blessing of the Animals, because that really seems to bring joy to a lot of the faces that have four-legged loved ones. And it's quite entertaining as well, the parade coming through the church. And then we've also invited folks to special events, and one of them actually was so impressed with the entire event that he auditioned to become part of the Gay Men's Choir. And now he's doing that. So who knows what happens when you invite somebody to come to our church.
I'd like to open the floor open to any questions people might have.
Oh, sorry, I'll make sure.
Well, as Robert suggested, with the new administration, have multiple concerns. I would like to know how people stand on the issue of the cathedral being a gun-free zone. I know this was brought up before, but it may need to be revisited. So I'd just be curious about people's
And actually, I'm a dean of technology, so, you know. Appreciate that. From my vantage point, since I've been in higher education, the issue regarding where guns should be in public spaces is already established for me. I think it's a matter of we are in interesting times where there are certain rights that should be protected, but it doesn't mean necessarily that it should impact on other people's rights or comfort level. And given what we've experienced both in colleges, universities, high schools, and some churches, is my point of view is that guns do not have a place here.
Yeah, I think it goes without saying that guns don't have a place here. However, I did look into this, and I ran across a study that the RAND Corporation made, and it had to do with what is the effectiveness of gun control policies. In other words, how do gun control policies affect the end result? Do they reduce crime? Do they reduce shootings? Do they reduce anything? And the answer for gun-free zones is it doesn't make a difference. So the study says it's fine, but it doesn't affect the outcome.
I firmly believe that guns do not have a place in this community, full stop.
I agree with that.
I had no idea that was even an issue. Is anybody packing heat? Betsy, let me see your I had no idea that this was an issue. Anyway, of course, I never want to endorse people bringing guns or having guns in this community.
I'd like it very much if you would speak to how the cathedral can be inclusive and encouraging of individuals with disabilities, particularly disabilities, sensory disabilities that may not be obvious to us.
Can I follow up on Joanna's suggestion? I think that what we need to do is establish a way for people with disabilities or people of a family who need to get to doctors, a way to do that. And I can't think of a better place, a better source than one's own church. I think that we've sort of got the ramp business down pretty well, but there are a number of us who have severe disabilities that we don't talk about that need to be dealt with, and I agree with you. Who was talking?
Sherry.
Okay, so yeah, absolutely.
Okay, I would think it would be very smart to have somebody to come in and look at our church and see, like we have the playground that kids can go to. When I was teaching, we had a whole wing of kids with disabilities and experts that fixed the room. Is that what you're kind of thinking of, Sherry? Oh, uh-oh.
I think I understood you. Being somebody who has a sensory disability that's pretty hidden, if you will, to be conscious of needs that aren't obvious. But I'm thinking of things like, do we have bulletins available that are in large print? And if not, do we have a way for people to get them and make that knowledge known? Do we make sure that people who are mobility challenged can get around on the cathedral campus easily? It's that kind of thing.
I'd like to go in for chapter next year.
Yeah.
Oh, no. I'd have to have way more hearing than I have.
We can talk loud.
And we do.
You're right.
Brother Richard, thank you. I was just kind of curious as you talked about the disabilities, maybe an ASL interpreter, ASL, American Sign Language. What do you think about that? That's all. Thank you.
Well, we have Sherry already.
Oh, we do? Okay. I don't know. I don't know about it. I never.
Yeah, Sherry volunteers for ASL skills. Do you come to 10:30? No, you don't.
Oh, no, I go to the 8 o'clock.
Okay, well, you miss out on Sherry.
No, I apologize about that.
No, that's okay. Yeah, she's usually right up front.
Oh, really? Okay, I didn't know that.
But we used to pay somebody. We used to have an interpreter. When Alice Easley was here before she went to heaven, that she organized the whole thing. You guys remember that? The ones that have been here for a million years. And, but that's, you know.
Another forum on sign language.
What was that?
She said that for you to give another forum about sign language. And then next year, join chapter, I guess.
She was welcome in doing those. Barbara Harris.
You did the Lord's Prayer, we can do the 23rd Psalm.
Certainly we could do that, and I would be happy to do that, but what I'm hoping to address here is what are the corporate administrative things that we can make manifest here for those individuals whose disability is not obvious, but who still need support. It doesn't, I have glasses, that's great, but there are people who need large print and we don't have it available. That, it's that, I don't mean to bitch at you, pardon my bad language. Do you know what I mean?
Thank you, and I'd really like to talk with you individually and make a list of some of those things, because I think they're very needed, and they're not ones that that I'm particularly aware of, so I would love to have that. Did you have a question?
I do. As a member of the Strategic Planning Committee, one of the glaring needs is young people involved. Another glaring need is ministry participants. We have wonderful ministries here. We have a lot of people, maybe, but some that are really needing support. So I guess I'd like to ask all of you. I know it's on and off.
I can't.
Okay, it's okay. What you might do, or what do you propose for increasing the number of young people and the number of folks in ministry? Thanks.
Thank you.
And Diane, wonderful question. I would just offer that we have a number of great ministries, and we'll probably have more as time goes on. And of course, and I'm, one person I can say is sometimes my time does not allow me to do things that I want to do. So I think we need to be cognizant of whether people have the bandwidth to do X number of things. But fundamentally, I think if you build it, people will come. And if you actually have a really good ministry that speaks with relevance to the day and what our needs are and part of the mission of this cathedral, I think you may find new ones popping up that actually would attract even more of our congregation, maybe even add more young folks to our congregation as well. Part of it requires for us to be a little bit attuned to what the needs are. And frankly, particularly for those who, I now put myself in that same category as senior. So for those of us who may, after a while, may be losing contact with whatever the new generation's called. Does anyone know? Generation question mark. Yes. But that's really that's part of the issue too. I mean, and I'll just use my personal experiences, is that we have to constantly modify instruction to look at the information-seeking behavior of younger people as they come in. They're different. They look at things differently. They'll talk about TikTok. It's like, well, at least not any longer. But there are things that, part of it, all of us have a responsibility to make sure that we have the right mechanism to connect with all of those that we encounter. And part of it is knowing a little bit of where they're coming from. It's not necessarily that they have to adapt to everything that we do in the way that we have done it. So speaking the language, if you will. And I think the more that we do that, I think we'll also find out where there are other needs that are related to our mission. And therefore we can both address being more knowledgeable about young folks and what their interests are and where the needs are. But also we may also know that we can be the connecting tissue between what we have known and what they hope to know. So I think that could get us to the next level.
So I'm going to go back to my idea of my two passions, music and evangelism. What if we become music evangelists? And my idea here is that we can revive or re-energize the Friends of Cathedral Music as a real ministry, and then use some of the techniques that we're learning in the evangelism ministry to go out and reach out to people and maybe attract them to come. But also recruit some choristers go out there. We can do all kinds of interesting things that we could do to not only take advantage of the fact that we have this wonderful music program, which, bar none, it's probably one of the best in the state, if not the country, and we shouldn't keep it to ourselves. So let's go out and let's evangelize, and let's bring some folks in, and let's share that love with the community.
As the baby at the table, I guess. I think really talking to young people and asking them what interests them is a good place to start. I think we can't fall into this notion that worship is going to be the first pathway into someone being incorporated into the life of the cathedral. So there need to be multiple pathways for people to become engaged in the life of this community. For example, if someone attends an organ recital on Friday, what's the engagement and follow-up with them? Is that happening? And so if we can, continue to create multiple pathways for people to become engaged in this community, I think that's how we can sustainably grow this congregation.
I think regardless of age, it's a matter of getting to know people on a one-to-one basis or even in small groups. There are a lot of people here, or I should ask, how many people here knew there was an actual card ministry? There are some, but not all. And being part of a committee or a ministry might seem overwhelming even to people who've been here for a very long time, because you may think that you have to put forth so much energy, and where am I going to find that in my day and in my week? But getting to know people one-on-one or in small groups, there might be smaller ways that you could help out with a committee or ministry, and learning what other people's skills and talents are. We see that visibly here through many people, but there are a lot of people who have hidden talents and skills that we aren't aware about or aware of. And so I think it's really getting to know people better and understanding them and where they feel that they would like to fit into a committee or a ministry. Some people might be afraid to step forward. So that's how I see moving forward to work to have more people join up in some of these committees and ministries. I hope that answers your question, Diane.
I don't really have any answers to that, except that I applaud the idea, what should I say, the event that we've got Sterling on our team. Here's Sterling, who organizes the forums. He's not here today, but he's normal. He was here earlier. Yeah, I think he's our liaison to young people. You see him when he is here, or when I see him here. He's talking to young people, and I think engaging him to engage them might not be a bad idea if that's what we have in mind in terms of inviting people his age and younger to church.
To answer Robbie's question, the new generation is Generation Alpha, and that's born 2013 to this year and probably the next few. But But I agree with the ideas that were shared at this table earlier, and certainly something that should be explored in further discussions. I like the idea of learning more from the folks that are maybe benefiting from our ministries. Maybe there's some leadership qualities in there, but that just comes from talking to them and learning more about them, and not just allowing them, don't want to say allowing, having them come and visit and then go, and then we don't see them until maybe the next time or never again.
I can speak very loud. Everybody knows that. Oh, yeah. Oh, thank you. A couple of things. Number one
it is state law that guns cannot come into a church. That is California state law. So, as someone said, additional efforts I'm not sure are needed or will be effective because of that. Number two, come see the strategic plan presentation, because almost all of the questions that were brought up today have been brought up to the Strategic Planning Committee and will be addressed. Number three, and this is a difficult one to talk about, everything additional that we do costs money or staff time. Our staff is already up to here with work that they have to do. And we have, one of the things that we found out in the strategic plan is we are very, very low compared to other churches of our type in this country in our giving. And so that's going to need to be addressed. If we are to add any other types of ministries, we're going to have to bring in more money to support more staff and more programs. So that's kind of a presaging view of what we're going to talk about in 2 weeks at the annual meeting.
Thank you, Blair. I want to thank everybody for being here this morning. We have, I'm sorry.
I had a question, but I think you're wrapping up.
Can you briefly state it? Maybe people can answer it afterwards. You need to wrap up.
I think that Kate Gould and Angel are people that would know about the young families and the young people coming here. If they come and then they don't return, what is their response? Is there follow-up? What are we willing to change things to have more young families and more young people? What if they say, I can't have my 3-year-old and my baby here for an hour and a half? What would happen? Would the service time be cut? What are you willing to do to change to make it so more people would want to come?
So I think we'll think about that rather than answering that question. So that
but
we can close.
I think that's very important.
I do. I agree that we have to think about what we will change about what we do now, and that's God continually calls us to that. I'd like to say that Demetrius Gregg also falls in that age group, and his lack of hair is by choice and not. So thank you very much for all being here. Remember that we'll be voting for all of these wonderful candidates. I love them all. I think they all have wonderful things to offer, and I wish we could just have them all, and maybe we can in the future. And the annual meeting will be in 2 weeks, and to vote, you must be there in person. Thank you very much.